There goes the full-time whistle. The summit has been peaked. The mountain has been conquered. The summit has been occupied. We have our new African champions. The CAF Champions League semi-final or final second leg took place over the weekend, and it was a game with so much history, with so much activity, a game with so much passion, and a game with so much talking points. As Mamelodi Sundowns arrived to the Moroccan capital of Rabat, to the Prince Moulay Abdullah Stadium, defending a 1-0 lead against an FAR Rabat team, not just chasing this lead, but chasing history. And at the end of the night, we have our new African champions. Hi, I'm the Football Otaku, and welcome to my latest video, this final video of the CAF Champions League, the second leg of the final. Thank you guys for sticking around, and thanks guys for coming through. If you like what you see, don't forget to like, to share, and subscribe, and also follow through for every of my other uploads and all of that stuff, because I know there's going to be a lot of stuff coming through, but that's going to be in the future. Enough of the hyping, let's just talk about the game, starting with... I'd already mentioned in the first leg that the mind games had already started, the drama had already started. Mamelodi Sundowns' plans had a wretch in them, but they were finally able to arrive to Morocco and were able to honor this incredible fixture like they were going to walk away anyway. And in the match, they already had to make a substitution. Aubrey Modiba, the first leg match winner, the man whose goal separated the two sides, sadly would not be able to partake in this match as he popped his hamstring in the later parts of the first leg. And it's a very, very crucial injury, because it meant that not only was he going to miss this match, but with Bafana Bafana's World Cup squad announcement literally in a couple days, around the corner, it really was going to be a race against time to be fit in time for the World Cup, a World Cup which now sadly highly looks like he's going to stay behind. So Mamelodi Sundowns would put in Divine Lunga at the back to replace Modiba. Also, it saw in the squad Granke Kana return from suspension from his direct red card against Esperance. For FAR Rabat, the big news would be the return of Fallou Mendy, the Senegalese defender who had missed the first leg through injury, but the medical staff at the Royal Armed Forces really were itching him to get fit for this game. They knew he was gone for the first leg, but they were working overtime to get him fit for this first leg of the final. So FAR would be back to their full strength, what they felt was their full strength. Well, Sundowns did have a few injuries, but a lot of their top guys were there leading up to this huge match. First of all, it was a fantastic atmosphere. I mean, I think the stadium was full about an hour and a half before kickoff, and the noise was absolutely electrifying. It was a fantastic pre-match display, at least nice attempt at a pre-match ceremony, having Seydou Keita, Barcelona and Mali legend, bring out the trophy. It was a very, very nice touch. It really gave that big game feel of a continental final, of a Champions League final, a game of this magnitude. It really gave that big game feel that fans really were looking forward to in this final. And I mean, it was a very, very good display to see, and it really got fans up for it and up for kickoff. And by the time kickoff came around, it exploded. So the match kicks off, and you can see FAR Rabat really were the team on the upper hand. They had a lot more of the ball, or at least would try to keep the ball better. Both teams really struggled to keep the ball at first glance. Both teams were really coughing up possession to each other. And you can see FAR Rabat were a lot more hungry and were pressing Mamelodi Sundowns. I'd mentioned before at the end of the first leg that this game was essentially going to be patience versus patience. And FAR Rabat were really trying to force the issue by trying to press Sundowns, trying to get them to play from the back. Sundowns looked a little frazzled. I mean, just a bit of backstory. I was talking about this match with a few of my friends who aren't really interested in African football, but were pretty interested in this game because, you know, South African team in the final. And I told them that this Sundowns team were battle hardened. They were used to these big game atmospheres, especially in North Africa. And yet, from what I saw, especially in the early parts, Sundowns looked very, very frazzled and really was struggling to hold the ball. I mean, so were FAR Rabat, but Sundowns were getting caught and really was struggling at times to handle the FAR Rabat press. And FAR would have their first sort of meaningful chance of the game, a good interplay down the left flank, a ball crossing from Tocanero, which was dealt with by Tebogo Mokoena. They would then work the other flank as well, where Hadraf would beat a few Sundowns defenders. He would cross in for Rabat, the captain, and he sadly wouldn't catch the ball, but very nicely, and the ball would fly wide. But at that point, you'd see FAR Rabat definitely started the stronger of the two sides. I mean, I said for Sundowns it was critical to survive that first 15 to 20, first 10 to 15, 20 minutes without having conceded. And although they did in terms of the scoreboard, they didn't in terms of the momentum and the wave. FAR Rabat really started the game better. It took up until the 23rd minute for Sundowns to manufacture a chance or to manufacture anything of their own, to get hold of the ball and get hold of possession. A shot from Brian Leon, which was easily dealt with Technauti, and then a couple seconds later, Sundowns would create another opportunity with Tashreeq Matthews taking a shot and going wide. But at that point, you could see Sundowns in the 20th minute was starting to sort of get their groove. They were starting to get into the game a bit more. They were holding onto the ball better. They were starting to pass a bit better, and now we're starting to create chances. And even though at the point FAR Rabat were leading the stats at 50% or slightly over 50% ball possession, Sundowns were now starting to get into their groove. They were starting to hold the ball better. They were starting to sort of get into their groove and start to deliver a few warning shots. Sadly though, it would be Asfar who would use the ball a lot better in the first half, and they would try to goad Sundowns into making some very risky challenges. I mean, they had a penalty shout in the 28th minute, but I mean, that came to nothing. But that wouldn't compare to like the 30th minute, where a ball played into the area again by that left flank. They were getting, Tocanero was getting a lot of joy on that left flank, that flank, and Sundowns were really struggling. Delivers the ball into the area. Divine Lunga, who's the sub, doesn't really collect the ball. I mean, he loses it. Hadaf comes in, and sadly he's taken down by Divine Lunga, who tries to win the ball back, but he forces, it's a really unforced error. And at first the referee doesn't give it, despite the absolute howls of the home crowd, of the hostile home crowd. But then he's called to the monitor, he has a look, and I feel it has to be a penalty. I mean, like I said, I've seen these given around the world. It's a bad mistake from Divine Lunga, being caught in a very awkward position, being caught in the ball in a very bad place, not holding on to it, and now he has to pay the price, which was a penalty. And the referee, of course, comes back and concurs with the decision and gives a penalty to the Royal Armed Forces. The crowd goes absolutely insane. And Rabat, the captain, he's the designated penalty taker. He faces against his, you could say, his counterpart, Ronwin Williams, and he sends him the wrong way, and FAR Rabat have the lead. It's the worst case scenario for Sundowns, and the stadium just goes absolutely wild. I mean, the stadium goes absolutely insane. The powder keg atmosphere that had been around for just about an hour now really just exploded, and you really felt FAR Rabat now had the grit between their teeth. They had leveled the tie, and really they felt they could go on and win the tie from here. For Sundowns, on the other hand, they were punished for their mistakes, punished for their you could say incompetence, and for being so frazzled. They really were punished for it. They were punished for their slow start, and it's a very harsh punishment as well. And Sundowns would have to pick themselves up and keep going. FAR Rabat would have another run into the Sundowns area 5 minutes before the break, but that would be cleared by Tebogo Mokoena. But Sundowns needed a moment. They knew they needed a moment. They knew they needed something quick. And just before the break, Sundowns would manufacture another opportunity. But Brian Leon again tries to take the shot, but it just flies off. Technauti. It's a good opportunity, but the finishing, again, the final ball, they were struggling. But Sundowns were able to show flashes of quality. Despite sort of the shortcomings, they were still showing that they were a quality team and they could produce flashes of quality. And then the big flash of quality, a transitional ball forward and a well-worked move, good passing, great interpassing with Brian Leon Letwako, the 20-year-old this is one of, I think, his second only Champions League game in the final. A well-worked move where Sundowns would be on the right flank, where Letuako would find Brian Leon. He plays into the area to Shriek Matthews with a fantastic deft flick, and it finds Teboho Mokoena on the half volley, and he absolutely wallops it, hits the other side of the bar and in. And Sundowns have that big moment, that big moment they so badly needed, and the big moment FAR Rabat dreaded. Yes, FAR Rabat had been aesthetically the better side, but Sundowns just had that tinge of quality, that tinge that could create a magic moment, and that was the magic moment. And you can just, it sucked the air right out of the stadium. I mean, the only thing you could hear were the hundreds and I think about, from what I hear, the 1,000 of Sundowns supporters that had made the trip. I mean, I hear it's the biggest away allocation, the biggest sort of traveling group that Sundowns had ever sent or had ever been from South Africa away in a CAF club competition game. And I mean, you can tell Teboho Mokoena's feeling it. He's feeling it. He's the man for the big occasion. I mean, if you've seen this season, he scored a lot of big goals for Sundowns, both in the league and in Africa. And how big a goal than this? The Champions League final away from home in Rabat, and the celebration, just, you know, he was giving Morocco fans that PTSD. I'm here. And he hits that Ronaldo celebration, right in the middle of Rabat. And the Sundowns players and fans are feeling it. I mean, you could even see the celebration scenes, the players showed that goal, that confidence, that rebellion against the hostile home crowd. I mean, you can hear a few choice words from the Sundowns players, and even some of the Sundowns like Tashreeq Matthews, who he tries to goad the FAR supporters. So does Jaden Adams, and I'm thinking to myself, oh please God, don't jinx it. But it's a big goal in the context of the tie. It's an away goal, and it's really what FAR Rabat feared the most, that Sundowns were going to create that one moment of quality and experience. And that moment came, and it came with absolute quality. It came with absolute ferocity now, and it had changed the tie completely. It really got the nerves away from Sundowns. Not only were they leading, but they now had an away goal, and hitting into the break, which was even a worse time to concede because it changes the entire dynamic of the game. It meant now in the second half, Royal Armed Forces would need 2 goals with immense pressure, and the tie was now firmly in Sundowns' corner. So heading into the second half, Sundowns will make a halftime change, subbing on Chelo Allende, looking to sort of regain some midfield dominance into the second half. For FAR Rabat though, bizarrely for Santos, he wouldn't make any changes. He would stick with the same 11 for a large chunk of the game, and the chase began. And again, FAR Rabat would have a fair chunk of the ball and would definitely use the ball better. I mean, we all suspected that this would happen, that although Sundowns would rarely, should we say, outpossession FAR Rabat would definitely have a lot more resources than they did in Pretoria, and thus allow them to be more adventurous and daring and bolding. They would create a lot more opportunities, but you can just see that Sundowns had really been able to bring down the hatches and were able to sort of be solidified at the back. They would deny FAR Rabat quite a few opportunities. I mean, they would create chances with Le Militaire, but really you could see that they were really half-hearted chances. They never really looked like they were creating anything of substance, and Sundowns were really trying to keep the game under pressure and under control. Sadly though, for Sundowns, that would mean they'd have to sacrifice their attacking impetus, because in the second half, Sundowns didn't really, there were times that they had the ball forward. You could see at times what they were trying to do. They were trying to really get at that FAR high line. I mean, FAR had no choice but to chuck bodies forward, and you could see that they were trying to break them constantly. But Brian Leon, again, for a player who'd been such a figure in the CAF Champions League, he really was subdued in this game in the second half. And for FAR Rabat, although they did have their chances, it was really nothing of substance, nothing that was truly memorable. I mean, it was just a whole lot of possession, but there was no way they were breaking the Sundowns team through. You could see Sundowns were really trying to break the game down. And then in the 70th minute, again, another big moment happens. I mean, a shot from Hadraf Again, Ron Williams doesn't do a great job at claiming it. He spills the ball, then an FAR Rabat player gets in the way, and Williams takes him down. And again, the crowd sort of stands up and starts roaring for a penalty. The referee again refuses to give it until he's called to the monitor. And if the first penalty was a bit of a stonewall penalty, this one has a lot more mitigation to it. And my mitigation for Ron Williams is that, I mean, he has a chance to go for the ball. I mean, okay, yes, he spills it, and he spills it needlessly. He spills it needlessly, but he should be able to have the ball, or should be able to at least take the ball, or be able to take the ball from there. He should have a chance to recover the ball, and the FAR back player gets in the way. So what option does he have? He has to challenge for the ball. How's he going to challenge for the ball when the player is literally in his way? And so he takes him down. It doesn't really look nice. It doesn't look pretty. That's my mitigation for it. But I mean, even compared to that, there's a lot more evidence that this is again a penalty. Goalie takes down the striker. He makes minimal contact with the ball, and the referee, as much as this one isn't as strong as the other penalty appeal, you do see the referee's logic, and he calls for the penalty. And FAR Rabat have an opportunity to get one of the two goals. Now, I was thinking, the penalty would be Reda Slim, or even Hadraf would take the penalty, or Ait would take the penalty as well. Or Kodu would take the penalty as well. But instead they go for Rabat again, the guy who scored the penalty in the first half. And I'm thinking that's not a very smart decision, because now you're facing Ron Williams again. And I mean, beating a goalkeeper once in a penalty in a match like this is already pretty difficult, but to do it again, it's not going to be more easy. It's probably even harder, because now how are you going to fool the goalkeeper again, you know? So I felt that it wasn't really a great choice for him to be penalty taker. I don't know what happened, but I'm largely assuming probably he pulled rank, which is not very smart. And that also showed a bit of ill discipline in FAR. But I mean, the ill discipline had been around all game. I mean, players were picking up yellow cards, especially the captain was definitely in on the wars, and he now, you could say, had pulled rank and was about to take this pressure cooker penalty, and he has to score this penalty, because if he scores, that means FAR are a goal behind. Sundowns now only lead on away goals, and now we're in for a real big photo finish. And it really gives FAR hope, and it really, in a stadium that had been pretty subdued, it really does bring the fans back in. He takes a big puff of the chest, steps up for the penalty. Now he goes right again, but this time Williams read him and makes a big save. I mean, with his wrist essentially, and it goes over the bar, and the chance is gone. And if it almost felt like Sundowns had scored again, you know, the noise just went absolutely subdued, and Ron Williams, who had been much maligned these last few weeks, especially with the end of the PSL campaign here in South Africa, his performance, many people have even questioned his position as Bafana number 1 heading to the World Cup. That was a great way to silence the critics, rolling back the years and making a save in this big occasion, and that essentially was FAR Rabat's golden chance gone. You know, there was a lot of parallels from 2024 and even 2025 and 2026 for Moroccans. I mean, Tebogo Mokoena with a stunner, a penalty miss in Rabat. And really it felt like a deja vu for a lot of Moroccan followers. Sadly though, the game starts to peter out, and FAR Rabat begin to run out of ideas. They run out of time, and they start to run out of ideas. Sundowns look a lot more comfortable, and sadly there's a message that the crowd get as well, and the stadium starts emptying. And personally, it felt so disheartening to see the fans leave so early. I understand that the game felt increasingly more lost, but just stay behind. You never know. I mean, you truly never know. And the team just needed that last final push, and sadly to see the fans leave so deserted and desert them at this time really was disheartening. It was really disheartening to see, and really was an indicator that this was done. That this tie was done. This final is in the books. There's no way Sundowns are bottling this from here. FAR Rabat would create one last opportunity in stoppage time, but just as the luck had been all night long, it was a horrible miss. 1-on-1, you're in on goal, goalkeeper's beaten, wide open net, and you send it to the orbits. You send it to the moon. I mean, that was just FAR Rabat the whole evening, where they finally got an opportunity, they finally got a chance, and unfortunately the chance passes them by. And sadly, even amongst the makeshift Southern part of where the sort of ardent FAR Rabat fans were, they were also starting to head for the exits real early. Sundowns would have a goal ruled out for offside due to Lebo Mutiba, who was a sub for Brian Leon, who thought he had really got the party started, but unfortunately the goal would be ruled out for offside. It wouldn't matter though, as the full-time whistle went, and 10 years of waiting, 10 years of failure, 10 years of so near yet so far was finally over. The story was finished. Mount Everest had been climbed, and Mamelodi Sundowns were CAF Champions League winners for 2026. Africa was yellow. The stadium absolutely empty and deserted. The only thing you could hear were the 1,000 Sundowns fans, the brave Sundowns fans who had made the trip, and the noise of celebrations from the players, staff, everyone connected with the club, as the full-time whistle went off and Africa would be painted for the second time in yellow. So where to from here for the two sides in this final? I'll start first with the losers and FAR Rabat. I'll mention one positive and one negative. The positive for FAR Rabat is you made the final. I know, quite obvious. Captain Obvious to the rescue. But yeah, they made the final, and making the final is still a pretty fantastic achievement. I mean, for FAR Rabat, they are one of the big three of Moroccan football, but in terms of continental success, they've been really left behind by the big guys. Raja and Wydad Casablanca have really left them, have cut them adrift. So for them to be in this Champions League final for the first time in a generation and a half, in almost 2 generations, 50 years, 41 actually, to make the CAF Champions League final again is a phenomenal achievement, and especially considering who they had to face and to an extent beat. It's a huge achievement to make it to this final, to bring to their home crowd and this wonderful stadium this massive occasion, and they shouldn't really be ashamed of themselves. I mean, you know, it's quite disappointing, but the fans should really be appreciative of this team and really should be proud of this team for making the final. And also, all is not lost. They're really knee deep in Botola Pro. I think there's 9 games to go in the Botola Pro, and they're still right thereabouts in the championship chase. So for FAR Rabat, all is not lost, but it's been a fantastic African campaign, and they'll definitely be very, very proud of what they've done in the CAF Champions League this season. So that's my positive. My one negative is the cycle. Is this the end? I mean, FAR Rabat, you know, they've re-emerged in the CAF Champions League in the last couple of years, a competition they've rarely played in, and they do have a chance of inheriting the sort of Moroccan flag, the true premier Moroccan flag bearer, especially with the instability of the big two. I mean, Raja and Wydad are wildly inconsistent, so FAR Rabat do have a chance of playing in this competition more regularly. The problem is, will they? I mean, they don't have, with their links to the Royal Moroccan military, they can't really splash the cash as much as a lot of their rivals both at home and on the continent can. They have to be very, very careful with their scouting, very, very careful with their recruitment. So it's going to be very, very difficult for Le Militaire to be able to hold this. Can they make this more often? Can they be regulars in the later parts of Champions League? Can they be regulars and regular challenges for the Botola Pro? Or is this the end of the cycle? You know, Santos leaves, a few of the other top stars leave or say goodbye to the club, and sadly FAR Rabat go back to should we say the Netherlands, where they came from. You know, it's going to be very, very difficult to see the future of FAR Rabat. It's not going to be easy. They're sadly financially hamstrung, not necessarily financially, but definitely, should we say, you know, hamstrung, administratively hamstrung compared to their rivals. And it's going to be very, very difficult to see where the future lies for this team. Can they be able to challenge for Champions League more regularly, or is this sadly the end of an era, the end of a cycle, and sadly now the wait goes painfully on, probably even to 50 years? Or is this going to be another, are they going to still be able to have that hunger, that desire, that gritted blood in their teeth to finally bring home the CAF Champions League? That is a question that we're only going to find the answer to in a year, maybe 2 years time. For Mamelodi Sundowns, the positive is, well, they're African champions. Well, there's another obvious one, but there's two prongs to this. There's two prongs to Sundowns winning the African title. One is they finally got the monkey off their backs. I mean, for Mamelodi Sundowns, winning the CAF Champions League in 2016, they weren't necessarily an African giant when they won the Champions League in 2016. They won it really by surprise. No one really saw them coming. No one really knew who they were. And for Sundowns, the element of surprise was the biggest weapon they had. And they really took Africa by surprise, defeating the likes of Zamalek and Zesco United and Setif and Inyimba on their way to Champions League glory. And many felt that was, although it was their crowning moment, it was really a moment that came in really big surprise. It's kind of like somebody who's an unfancied sort of challenger winning the World Heavyweight Championship as an unfancied underdog, as someone who's making their mainstream debut in top championship boxing, and your debut, you beat the world champion for the title. That's how this Champions League win felt for Sundowns. And many felt that after that they would slip back to obscurity. They'll still have that one Champions League trophy, but they won't achieve anything else. Instead, Mamelodi Sundowns used that Champions League trophy and prolonged themselves, made themselves better, made themselves ambitious, and were able to stay as one of Africa's top sides, to become a new world giant in the African game. I mean, to quote the line from Drake in Thank Me Later, Fireworks, track 1 with Alicia Keys, my 15 minutes started an hour ago. What was meant to be Sundowns' 15 minutes of fame in 2016 has now turned into hours and hours of sustainability, of consistency in the Champions League, making it to the latter parts, epic matches, epic rivalries with some of the top sides in African football. They're more established top sides of African football. And now here they are after a 10-year odyssey, 10 years of trying, failing, near misses, minimal moments that went against them, to finally getting it right. And not necessarily with the best team, with the best squad, not even in the best year, to finally win the Holy Grail really just gets the monkey off their backs. And they've now finally, again, just like that boxer I mentioned earlier, he's won a second heavyweight world title, but this time he didn't just win it as a plucky underdog. He won it as someone on the rise, as someone who's been on the rise, and he's now won it as a seasoned veteran, a seasoned campaigner, and he's finally been able to regain the big gold as a seasoned campaigner, as someone who's kept a lot of scalps down the road, and now is back on top of the game, back on top the pyramid. The second positive, or 1.2, I'll call it a 1.2, is they have the potential to build a dynasty. They really have the potential to build a dynasty. I mean, if you look at a lot of Sundowns' continental rivals, a lot of them are in phases of transition. A lot of them are definitely on the decline. I mean, you look at Al Ahly, who have failed to qualify for the Champions League for the first time in 23 years. They are going to need a massive rebuild, which is going to take years to accomplish. Mentioned, of course, the Moroccan clubs. Algeria is a bit of a non-factor. Esperance have had a pretty underwhelming season, and they're going to need to rebuild. A lot of Sundowns' rivals, especially the Northern African rivals, their historic rivals, are in phases of rebuilding. They're not in phases of challenging or stability. And for Sundowns, they're only going to get better. They're only going to get stronger because they're only going to improve their team. And there's a core of players that are going to stick around for quite a while, especially now after winning the Champions League. There's a potential that Sundowns could build a dynasty, just like Wydad or even just like Al Ahly, who won 2 out of 3 Champions Leagues, and the one they did lose, they lost at the final. There's no reason why Sundowns can't do the same, where they win 2 of the next 3 Champions Leagues, and the one Champions League they do drop is where they reach the final. I mean, there's no chance, there's no possibility, there's no reason why they can't go back to back next year. I mean, who knows? Cardoso probably is hungry to stay. A lot of the stalwarts at Sundowns and the top stars will definitely be willing to stay, and there's no reason why, for Mamelodi Sundowns, literally as the club motto is, the sky is the limit. There's no reason why they can't become a dynasty on the continent, and especially now having won the CAF Champions League, knowing that they've worked so much, they're going to be hungry to recreate this all over again. They're going to be hungry to succeed all over again, and I feel it's going to take a very, very good side to knock Sundowns off their perch. The one negative for Mamelodi Sundowns, though, will be demand. It will be demand. Now that they're African champions, everyone is going to want a piece of them. And I'm not just saying everyone in Africa. Everyone in the world is going to want a piece with them. The demand next season is going to be insane. Not just because of the domestic demands. I mean, Sundowns are going to be very hungry to win back the league. I mean, this year they finally dropped the league title after 9 years to Orlando Pirates. And although they are happy that they are champions of Africa, they are going to want to regain that domestic title again. They're going to want to regain domestic dominance over the country again. And they're going to want to reclaim that domestic title again from the Buccaneers. And that's going to be very demanding 30-game season. They know how long it takes. And of course, the 3 cup competitions that follow. But that's just on the local front. In Africa and around the world, it's going to be a whole lot busier. They first have the CAF Super Cup against Confederations Cup winners USM Alger of Algeria. They'll play that at home. But then they now go global again. Of course, they've qualified for the Club World Championship of 2029. We don't know where that tournament's going to be. We don't even know if that tournament's going to get a season 2. But again, that's another discussion for another day. But they'll be in the Intercontinental Cup, where they'll potentially play Al Ahly Saudi of Saudi Arabia if they can get past Auckland City in the first round. That already going to have so much demand on the players. You know, not only are they going to be playing a jam-packed domestic schedule, but they've now got an international competition against top international opposition, the champions of Asia potentially. And how deep they can get in that competition is already going to be a lot of demand and a lot of fixtures piling up. Also, the CAF Champions League, they defend the CAF Champions League next year, and knowing Sundowns' demand and their hunger and their belief that they can retain the Champions League, that's going to be even more demand. I mean, we saw just how leggy Sundowns were, especially at the end of this campaign because of the Club World Championship last year in America. The cycle just continues, and the big games just keep coming. The games just keep coming, whether it's the PSL, the league, whether it's the 3 cup competitions, whether it's the Intercontinental Cup, whether it's the Super Cup, whether it's the Champions League. Everyone's going to want a piece of Mamelodi Sundowns, and I feel for Sundowns, that's going to be a big problem for them, because maybe at the end of the campaign they might start running out of legs, and even then that won't help, because with Sundowns' massive contributions to Bafana Bafana, they now, with a Cup of Nations, another Cup of Nations season. I mean, next season is going to be a Cup of Nations season with qualifiers and the tournament at the end of it. So there's going to be a lot of mileage on those legs, both from everywhere, whether it be domestically on the continent, club global, or even national team competitions. It's going to be a massive demand on the likes of Sundowns, Cardoso, the backroom staff, the squad, and they're going to have to plan really, really deep, because if Sundowns don't plan well and they don't have a deep squad that they have, I feel they could start running out of legs. I mean, we remember when Sundowns won the Champions League in 2016, the structural headache that it gave the league for the entire 2017 season was absolutely phenomenal, and I feel Sundowns are going to be going through it again this season. The demand is going to be absolutely crazy. The legs, the mileage that the players are going to pick on is going to be absolutely demanding, and it's going to take a big job in the winter now for Sundowns to be able to prepare. There's not a lot of rest. There's not a lot of time. I mean, we already got the World Cup coming. There's not a lot of time, not a lot of rest before they take on an even more jam-packed schedule than they have now. So it's going to be very, very difficult, very, very important to see how Sundowns handle this campaign or next season in both all forms of competition, whether it be domestic, continental, or even international. And that's it. That is the end of this video. Thank you for sticking around. You're an absolute warrior if you have. Thank you guys for again sticking around with this CAF Champions League. Another CAF Champions League year in the books. Thanks for sticking around, for all your support throughout the videos, all the preview and predictions, the raps, everything. Thank you so much for sticking around, supporting almost all the videos. You guys have been absolutely amazing. But sadly, there's no rest for the wicked. Even though African and domestic football is now done, there's no rest for the wicked, because we have the small matter of a FIFA World Cup coming around. Yes, as per time of recording, we are just over 2 weeks away from the greatest single sports show on earth. And of course, the Football Otaku will be providing you with content. Of course I will. And it's content that I've got planned for quite a while. Me and my friends are definitely thinking of linking up and providing content for you guys, whether it be on my channel, whether it be on the podcasts on YouTube, or whether it be on Twitter, wherever. We're definitely going to be hitting you guys with World Cup coverage, bringing you this tournament in North America. So the rest doesn't stop here. You know, it's my first World Cup, and I hope to give you guys good coverage as the tournament goes on. But until then, thank you guys for sticking around so much, for all the support you guys have been giving me in the CAF Champions League, and I hope you guys will stick around as well with me so we can enjoy the World Cup together. So as another CAF Champions League campaign is put in the books, and as we say goodbye for one last time, it's been your boy, the Football Otaku, and never forget, real football always wins. Check you on the flip side. Deuces. Bye bye.